So, hello there everyone and welcome, it is Niran here, and today it is time for yet another FIFA 19 career mode experiment. Today, we are going to be seeing what happens when we reverse the entirety of European football. If you don't know what I mean by that, we're going to be taking every side in a Premier Division in their European country and replacing them or swapping them with teams from the lower divisions in that country. So for example, the Premier League is full of League 2 teams. We've reversed them. We've reversed the two leagues over. The Premier League is full of League 2 teams, the Championship is full of League 1 teams, then League 1 is full of Championship teams. Now, this is done quite loosely in inverted commas because obviously there's different numbers of teams in certain leagues. League 2 has 4 more clubs than the Premier League does, so it's not just Premier League clubs, there are a few Championship sides as well. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the quality of each league, I guess you could say, has been swapped. So I've done the same thing in France. League 1 is full of League 2 sides, and the second tier is full of first tier teams. So you can see the likes of Monaco in here. Germany has got the third Liga clubs in here. The second Bundesliga stays largely the same because it's the middle league, if you like, but it's got a couple of different clubs in there. And then also the third tier has got all of your Bundesliga clubs, the likes of Bayern. Italy has also been swapped round. You can see all the Calcio B clubs in Serie A. And then finally, the only other league with multiple divisions on it is Spain, and we've got all of the second tier Spanish clubs in La Liga, and then vice versa with the first tier clubs. I'm going to choose one of the League 2 clubs, which is actually a Premier League club. We'll go for Manchester United, because we literally never do Manchester United in these experiments, so we'll go for that. European competition is going to be an interesting one, because I think for now, it's going to be... Oh, no, it's not. Okay, I thought it would just remain seeded, but actually, it's a complete and utter car crash is what it is. And obviously, this experiment does have its limits, so the Eredivisie clubs, for example, and the Belgian clubs and the Turkish clubs will always remain the same because, I mean, they are the only leagues in those countries. There isn't the second tier of Dutch football, for example. So if you go on to enjoy the video though, slap a like on it and subscribe if you are new to the channel. It's the big red button under the video and it massively helps me out. So as you can see, confirmation here of League 2, the league we're going to be starting it with Manchester United. It is a 24 club league, which is why it's the Premier League clubs plus 4 others. So West Brom, Middlesbrough, Leeds and Aston Villa are the 4. And then yeah, everything else in the world of football has been reversed. This will be quite a long-term experiment. I'll try and do sort of 6 or 7 seasons maybe of this until maybe things have started to go back to how they usually are. So the end of the season's arrived and here is how the league has ended up. Manchester United promoted from League 2 along with Manchester City and Chelsea. Leicester, Everton, West Ham and Liverpool will have to fight it out in the playoffs, which means Spurs and Arsenal have no chance at all to be promoted. They will remain in League 2. The FA Cup was won by Spurs in a 2-0 win over Wolves in the final, whilst Carabao Cup victors were Crystal Palace. The Checker Trade Trophy was won by Fulham, and then the League 2 playoffs won by Everton in a Merseyside clash against Liverpool. The Champions League was won by FC Porto, 4-3 on penalties over PSV. No real surprise. Obviously, they remain in their usual leagues. I can't flip the entirety of Europe, only the ones that have, like, you know, second divisions and all that jazz. Don't think any of the English clubs made it out of the groups, though, unfortunately. Your Premier League, though, was won by Forest Green, who go through to the Champions League along with Oldham Athletic, Port Vale and Colchester. Meanwhile, down towards the bottom of the table, it was Newport, Morecambe and Macclesfield relegated to League 1. The Championship sees Scunthorpe and Burton promoted automatically up into the Premier League. And in League 1, Sheffield Wednesday, Derby County promoted, Blackburn, Bristol City, Swansea and Stoke in the playoffs. If anyone was wondering about transfers, on the most part, they still seem pretty normal. Marco Reus going to Spurs, even though Tottenham have no chance getting promoted to League 1 this season. Raheem Sterling technically going to the second tier of Spanish football. And then finally on the other leagues, Metz won League 1. Paris Saint-Germain unsurprisingly winning the second tier over Monaco and Lyon, so they're all promoted now. Your Bundesliga was won by Hansa Rostock by 1 point over Würzburg. And then the German third division, no surprise there, was won by FC Bayern. Serie A was won by Palermo over Benevento and Empoli. They're all in the Champions League now next season. Calcio B, though, was won by Juventus over Inter. No real surprise, they're promoted. La Liga was won by Deportivo over Osasuna. And the second tier of Spain was won by Barcelona and Real Madrid. Won't be too long, I don't think, before they're back in the Champions League then. Season 2 then is done, and as suspected, it's even easier for the sides that got promoted from League 2 in the third tier. Manchester United and Manchester City go automatically. Chelsea and Everton will have to fight it out in the playoffs, though. The FA Cup was won by Brighton, interestingly, over Fulham. The Carabao Cup won won by Arsenal, who is still in League 2 at the moment. And the Checkatrade Trophy was won by us, Manchester United. Interestingly enough, the League 1 playoffs actually saw Stoke get promoted ahead of Chelsea and Everton, so both of those teams having to stay in the third tier for next season. Over in the Champions League, it's Portuguese victory again, but this time Benfica, who beat PSV 3-0 in the final. As you can see, the likes of Benevento, Colchester, Würzburg, Numancia, Zaragoza, Hansa Rostock, none of them getting through the groups. Your Premier League was won by Scunthorpe United this time over MK Dons and Burton Albion. Oldham, Forest Green and Bury round out your top 6. Championship was won by Derby County, so they're up into the Premier League along with Sheffield Wednesday. And then down in League 2, it's Arsenal, Spurs and Liverpool promoted automatically, with West Ham, Leicester, Burnley and Palace in the playoff places. And down at the bottom, as you would expect, the 4 sides that were relegated last year. Starting to see a bit more normality now in some of the other leagues. Lyon, Paris Saint-Germain and Monaco were all promoted, so they've now finished top 3 of Ligue 1. Union Berlin won the Bundesliga over SV Wehen and then Bochum. Second Bundesliga was won by Bayern, no surprise after they were promoted last year, then Leverkusen and Leipzig. And then in the third tier, Dortmund are finally promoted now, along with rivals Schalke and then Wolfsburg. Italian Serie A was won by Juventus, no real surprise. Lazio there in second, then Hellas Verona, interestingly. And then in Calcio B, it's Napoli, Roma and Milan getting promoted. Whilst in the second season for Spain, we've already got Barca and Real back at the top of the table. Deportivo, though, holding their own and beating Atletico Madrid, whilst promoted up into La Liga are Valencia, Sevilla and Villarreal. So Season 3 and Derby County continue their progression. They've won the Premier League now over Sheffield Wednesday and then Oldham and Oxford. You can see the rest of the Premier League table. There's still a lot of League 2 sides in here, but a further 3 are relegated in the form of Cheltenham, Crewe and Tranmere. In our league, in the Championship, Manchester United have now been promoted as champions with 108 points up into the Premier League. Stoke City, interestingly, beating Manchester City. League 1 sees Liverpool and Chelsea promoted. Arsenal and Spurs will have to fight it out in the playoffs. And then finally down in League 2, we got Watford, Southampton and West Ham getting promoted. Still a pretty decent amount of Premier League clubs languishing down in here. Normality restored in France. Paris Saint-Germain win the league over Lyon and Marseille, then Monaco and Metz. In Germany, FC Bayern have won the league. It's obviously a lot easier for them because the majority of the clubs in that league are second tier at best clubs. Leipzig then second and Leverkusen in third. Second Bundesliga was won by Wolfsburg over Dortmund and Schalke. And the third tier of German football was won by Hoffenheim, with Mainz and Köln getting promoted as well. Serie A this time won by Inter instead of Juventus for once. Napoli as well finishing above the Italian giants. Meanwhile, Calcio B sees Fiorentina and Sampdoria going up, as well as Sassuolo. Over in Spain, Real Madrid won the league ahead of Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, Sevilla and Espanyol. Gotta say, it's very odd to see a Group A in a Champions League consist of Juventus, Shakhtar Donetsk, Burton Albion and Union Berlin. We've got Barcelona and Oldham Athletic in the same group of the Champions League. So for the first time when it actually mattered, our team hasn't won the division we're in. Manchester City win the Premier League after getting promoted all the way from League 2 in the course of just 4 seasons. So in the most minimal time possible, if that makes sense, Manchester City have actually won the Premier League. Stoke finished ahead of us as well. MK Dons beat Derby County and Sheffield Wednesday. Champions League looks a lot more normal these days. Juventus coming out on top this time in a final against Leverkusen. And then the Europa League was won by Milan. They beat Monaco 3-2. The Championship sees Chelsea and Liverpool getting promoted automatically. We got Spurs, Swansea, Peterborough and Coventry in the playoffs. League 1 was won by Arsenal, 123 points and only 1 loss. Jesus Christ. Everton promoted as well. Then Southampton, Watford, Leicester and Norwich in the playoffs. And League 2 still featuring a decent amount of Premier League clubs. We've still got Palace down here, Bournemouth, Brighton and Wolves. Season 5 now, and Manchester City won the league again, this time over Chelsea. United there in third. Very close actually. 3 clubs split by 4 points. Stoke City there in fourth, getting the better of Liverpool, surprisingly. We've got MK Dons, Burton Albion, Forest Green still up in the top 10. They've been in the Premier League since the very first season. Interesting that in a league like this, Grimsby still managed to get 15 points. That's still more than the record in the Premier League for lowest points. Championship sees promotion for Spurs. They beat Arsenal by 1 point in the end. Peterborough third place as well. Better than Everton and Leicester. League 1 was won by Newcastle United. Brighton promoted as well. Then Bournemouth, Southampton, Watford and Palace. And then in League 2, we got Huddersfield getting promoted, along with Wolves and Leeds United. Also, again, if anyone was wondering about transfers, still pretty much the usual. We got Amiri going to Dortmund, Aouar going to Bayern, Anderson Talisca going to City for $100 million. And finally, here in season number 6, the Premier League starting to look a little bit more normal. Chelsea win the league over Arsenal, United and City in the Champions League spots. We got Liverpool there, then Spurs, Derby and Leicester in the top 8. Forest Green were holding on, gripping on for dear life through these 6 seasons, but unfortunately, they've now been relegated on goal difference. And then in European competition, it looks a lot more normal now. Paris Saint-Germain beating Bayern 3-1. Europa League victors were Liverpool, 2-0 win over Monaco. And then in the other leagues, Everton win the Championship, promoted along with Brighton, Newcastle, Watford, Peterborough and Port Vale, interestingly, in your Championship playoffs. League 1, finally, West Ham have been promoted, this time as champions over Southampton, Bournemouth, Wolves, Forest and Huddersfield in the playoffs. And then in League 2, West Brom promoted along with Barnsley. I think that's the first club that's been relegated during this experiment to get re-promoted. No room for Cardiff. That is how bad this Cardiff team is. They're still mid-table in League 2 after 6 seasons. In Europe, Paris Saint-Germain still coming out on top in France. Monaco there second, then Lille and Lyon. In the Bundesliga, Bayern won the league over Leipzig, then Dortmund, Leverkusen, Schalke and Wolfsburg. In Italy, Milan won the league over Juventus, Roma, Lazio, Inter and Napoli. And then in Serie B, Genoa promoted along with La Spezia, so another team that was relegated at one point during this save, re-promoted. Parma and Spal, interestingly, are actually Serie A sides and finished 14th and 19th respectively. And last but certainly not least, Real Madrid won La Liga ahead of Atletico Madrid and Barca, so that's pretty much how it's looked since season 2 really. And in the second tier, Celta Vigo promoted along with Leganes and Numancia. I think though that's going to round out today's experiments. A lot of the sides starting to filter up and we're starting to get back to normality really. But if you have enjoyed this one, slap a like on it and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. It's the big red button under the video and it massively helps me out. If you've got any other suggestions for cheat engine experiments or otherwise to do, drop them down in the comments section below. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a great day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.